text, we're dealing with the prophet Elijah, and God gave Elijah the vision to go and speak to his people. He was a leader in in the town of Tishbak in the country of Gilead. He was a leader, and in this town, a lot of people were doing a lot of things that they weren't supposed to do. And so here Elijah spoke to his people, and he basically spoke on behalf of the Lord and said, I serve the Lord, thy God of Israel. And he said, by his power, I promise that no rain will fall for the next few years. And then he also said, he goes on further to say, then the rain will only fall when I command it to fall. And I want to put a pin right there. We have the power to make the rain fall in our lives.
Amen.
Things can happen, and only things can happen in our lives on our command. And a lot of times we mess ourselves up because we don't realize that the things that happen in our lives is because of our own doing.
That's right.
We got to understand that the power that God has given us, that everything that happens to us, a lot of times it happens because of something that we did. And see, a lot of us as human beings, and I see it's only us, a lot of us as black people, we find it very hard for us to accept the fact that it's us who bring these things on ourselves, and we got to learn not to blame other people for our problems, but know that it's our problem. And here, King, I want you to use your imagination here and imagine how life would be for you if rain did not fall. Imagine how life would be for you if the rain never fell. It would be hot. A lot of y'all women, y'all perms would be sweated out, and your curls would be sweated out your head. It wouldn't, the grass would be dead, the flowers would be dead. What would life be without the rain? But I want, on that same note, as you imagine what life would be without rain, apply that to your life. What would life be without rain in your life? I'm not talking about rain that falls outside, but I'm talking about rain as far as trouble falling on your life, or storms coming in your life, and tribulations coming in your life. What would life be like? What would life be like? And so here Elijah, he's giving them a taste of what life is like without rain. But life for them without rain, without God, is a whole different story than life without rain with God. See, Elijah here, he showed us here that he has God on his side. And God showed him that he was on Elijah's side. He said, so even though the rain is not going to fall here in the town, I want you to go. I want you to go, and I want you to go to a city where there's only a stream, and ravens will bring you food on my command. And so, even in the midst of the drought, I'm going to take care of you as my child. And so here Elijah, he did what the Lord told him to do. He went to the city where God told him, and he stayed there day and night, and he drank from the stream, and he ate the food that the ravens brought him. And just as God said that he would do. I want to stop right there. God is able to do just what he says that he will do.
That's right.
He told Elijah that he was going to go. He told Elijah to go east of the Jordan River, and there I would have ravens. And ravens brought Elijah food day in and day out. And he allowed Elijah to drink from that stream. But eventually that stream ran dry. And he said, Elijah, I want you to go from this town, and I want you to go to another town where there is a woman that I've commanded there waiting on you. And so he moved from Elijah. He moved through Elijah. The power of God moved through Elijah, and he transitioned from his place of east of the Jordan River, and he went on to Zarephath. And there God really had a blessing waiting on Elijah. if you learn to listen to what God tells you to do, you actually do what God tells you to do, I promise you, everything will work out.
Amen.
As he said he would.
That's right.
A lot of us as people and as children of God, we find it hard to follow instructions.
That's right.
We're very hard-headed, and we go based off of what we want to do and how we want things to happen. And then in the end, when stuff don't work out the way we want it to work, then we get mad and upset and say, God, why do you do me like this? But God, even in the midst of a drought, God will sustain you. And even in the midst of hard times, God will find a way to bless you. Even though it's a test of your faith, God will still sustain you. Here Elijah, he did just as the woman said do. And Elijah, he came into the city of Zarephath, and Elijah saw her, and he said to her, he went to the town gate, and he saw her there gathering wood for a fire. She was a widow. Elijah said to her, would you bring me a small cup of water to drink? And she was going to get the water willingly, of course, because if we come into layman times, in layman terms, water is free, so nobody has a problem with doing something that's free. But then
Amen.
She moved on, Elijah went on, and he said, can you also bring me a piece of bread? And there she had to stop Elijah right there. She said, sir, now you done went too far. You going into what only I have for me and my son. And she did not put Elijah before she put before her son.
All right.
That one over your head right there. Y'all got a little quiet right there. See, a lot of our women in our culture today, they have a problem with putting men before their children.
Oh, yeah.
Y'all still quiet. They have a problem with, and it's not only women, it's our culture in general. We have a problem with lining up our priorities. We have a problem with lining up with what we're supposed to be doing and getting it mixed up with what we're supposed to be doing. But here she stayed the course. And she said, even though I can bring you a cup of water, but bread, you're asking for a little too much because it's me and my son, and I only have just a little bit left, and this is all we have left, and once we eat this, we're going to die. But she didn't know and realize who she was talking to. And here Elijah had a big influence on her life. He said, go and prepare that like you said you were going to do in the first place. Amen. Go and prepare it like you said you were going to do in the first place, and bring it to me. See, when God has a plan for something to work out in your life, when God has a plan for something to go the way that he wants it to go, you need to follow the exact instructions that he gives you. So Elijah, he gave her the instructions, and God spoke over her just as well as he spoke over Elijah, because God had to speak to that woman to tell her to believe what Elijah was saying. Right. So I got to stop right there. If somebody is speaking into your life, if somebody is trying to tell you about something in your life, if God hasn't already spoke to you about that thing, a lot of times don't open up your ears and listen to it. No, we got to be careful what we allow into our minds and into our heart. We got to be careful what we allow our eyes to see and our ears to hear, because those are the two entryways into our minds. But God had to speak to that woman. So he spoke to that woman, and he told, and she believed what Elijah said, so she went and she made the bread and she brought it back. And after she made that bread, Elijah gave the command. He gave the command that your bread shall never run out, because you did what God said to do. And I know it may be hard for us to follow the instructions of God and do some of the things that God asks us to do sometimes. Because I know God puts us in tight situations, puts our backs up against the wall where we have to make some tough decisions. See, a lot of our senior citizens, we're dealing with this problem in the church nowadays. A lot of our senior citizens have to decipher whether they're going to pay for tithes or pay for medicine. A lot of our senior citizens, they have to decide whether they're going to pay for food or pay for medicine. And that's a problem that we're having, but God is yet still working in the church. And even though it's a test of our faith sometimes, God still has a way of working that thing out. Because he said that he chose our paths and our destinations even before the foundation of the world. So that means he knows where we're going before we get there. He knows where we're going before we even start. He knows how the end is going to come out. So he knew that this lady only had a little bit. And so he used his power through Elijah to work and be a blessing in this lady's life. But the blessing didn't just stop there. See, the blessing didn't just stop there. When you follow God, God's blessings will come and blessings will keep on coming. He will open up the windows of heaven and pour you out blessings that you have not room enough to receive.
That's right.
What would life be without the rain? What would life be when God is on our side? What would life be like when God allows things to happen in our life? What would life be like? But God has sustained you in the midst of a drought. God will allow people to test your faith. But if you stick the course and you go the route that God tells you to go, then he will bless you for so doing. But now here Elijah is doing what God still commanded him to do. He commanded him to go to Zarephath and be with this widow woman. So he met the widow woman, and now he ended up at her house. Now he's ended up at her house, and now she said, now she's dealing with the problem of her son being sick. So now she has a man of faith in the house. But yet she still have a problem in believing. Even though she did what Elijah told her to do, even though she did what God told her to do, she still has a lack of belief in the power that Elijah holds. So here God, he strickens her son and became sick. He strickens her son was sick. And so Elijah, he took the boy from her and carried him upstairs, and he laid him on the bed in the room where he was staying. And he said, Elijah cried out to the Lord. He said, Lord, my God, this widow is letting me stay in her house. Will you do this bad thing to her? Will you cause her son to die? Then Elijah lay on top of the boy 3 times. He prayed, Lord, my God, let this boy live again. Lord, my God, let this boy live again. Lord, my God, let this boy live again. The Lord answered Elijah's prayer. The boy began breathing again and was alive. And he carried the boy downstairs and gave him to his mother and said, look, your son is alive. The woman answered, now I know that you really are a man from God. I know that the Lord really speaks through you. See, a lot of us, we have to see things in order to believe things. But the